Erik ten Hag publicly calls the media a disgrace. Manchester United in talks for new Disney documentary, and reports this evening say that Erik ten Hag will lose his job regardless of the result in the FA Cup final. These are just some of the stories we will be discussing on the show this evening. But before we jump into that, please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. So, as always here on the channel, I like to start the show off with some positivity. And the positive story I've got for you this evening is that apparently Shea Lacey, one of the young youth players who's kind of making his way into the first team at the moment, he was on the bench, I think, against Coventry on the weekend. And apparently he is going to feature between now and the end of the season in the first team. This is coming out from a very reliable source in the UK today. They're saying 17-year-old Shea Lacey is penciled to make his first team his first team debut in the next 5 or 6 Premier League games. So that's really, really positive. Obviously, he just signed a new contract at Manchester United, 17 years of age, somebody who I think is definitely got the potential to be a first team player in the future, somebody who, from what I've seen of him, looks really, really decent. And I think one of the biggest learning curves, I think, from this season is that we should be relying on our youth. Kobe Mainoo, probably one of our best players at the moment. Garnacho, another youth player, one of our best players at the moment. Like, we should be relying on these youth players. We should be bringing them through and giving them an opportunity. Shea Lacey plays predominantly as a right winger, can also play as an attacking midfielder and also on the left wing. Give him a chance. Why not? I would much rather see him have a go than Anthony, being honest. I genuinely would. You know, why would... We've got nothing to lose. We really, really don't. So, yeah, hopefully he gets his opportunity, whether that will be against Sheffield United or Burnley in the next couple of games. That's when I would do it personally, because being completely honest, guys, the season is effectively gone now. Like, we're not going to get top 4. Obviously, we're still playing for Europa. And I found out something really, really interesting earlier on today, actually, that I wanted to share with you, which is actually quite worrying. So I thought my information was that if Manchester United got to the FA Cup final, they would automatically get the Europa League spot, because obviously Man City will qualify for the Champions League and the winner of the FA Cup gets Europa League. Does that make sense? And my understanding was that if Man City were already qualified for the Champions League, obviously they wouldn't get Europa League, would they? And it would then go to us. But apparently, if Man City win the FA Cup, which they're most likely going to do, the Europa League spot will go to the 6th place team in the Premier League. So at the moment, that being Newcastle. As it stands right now, 5th place would get Europa League, 6th place would get Conference League, and 7th place would get nothing. So as it stands at the moment, we've got no European football at all at the moment. But if Man City were to win the FA Cup, which we expect they will, that place will then go to 6th place, which we are not even at the moment. We're 7th place. So it's pretty worrying. And I think it puts even more emphasis on that FA Cup final game, because it might be that by the time we get to the FA Cup final, we're not in the Europa League, because we'll have to finish 5th to be in the Europa League. 5th place won't get Champions League anymore, because so many of the English teams are outside. So many of the English teams have been knocked out of Europe. So if we finish 5th, we won't get Champions League. 5th would be Europa League, 6th would be Conference League, and 7th would be nothing. So, and we've got a pretty difficult run in for the rest of the season. You know, we've got Newcastle, we've got Brighton, we've got Arsenal, we've got Crystal Palace away. Like, we've got some really, really difficult games where I think the next 2 fixtures, the Burnley and Sheffield United, those are the only 2 games for the rest of the season where I would say that I'm confident we're going to win. Because after that, it literally is Newcastle, Brighton, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace away, all of which I think we could lose easily. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this FA Cup final has more importance and significance than any of us could ever imagine, because not only would it kind of save a terrible season, but it could be our only opportunity to get European football next season. And still then, it's only Europa League, which most people in the fan base don't even want anyway. So, yeah, it's a very difficult position, but we are where we are. Let's move on to Erik ten Hag then. So, obviously, Erik ten Hag spoke to the press earlier on today ahead of the Sheffield United game tomorrow. And Erik ten Hag called the press a disgrace. He said that they were embarrassing for their coverage after the game and that Manchester United weren't embarrassing. It said, "Is it embarrassing? No. The reaction from you was embarrassing. It is the comments. Top football is about results. We made it to a final and we deserved it, not only by this game, but also the other games." I mean, he has a point, you know, like, it's not like it's one game and you get to a final. We beat Liverpool. We beat Nottingham Forest. Obviously, the other two fixtures were slightly easier. I think it was Newport County and another team. But still, we still had to beat all of those teams to get to that semi-final. And yes, maybe there was a bit of luck in the end on the penalty shootout, but I think it is a disgrace the way that Erik ten Hag was treated after that game. It's a disgrace that none of the blame was put on the players. It was all put on Erik ten Hag. And I agree with him. And I'm glad that he's come out and spoke about it. But at the same time, Erik ten Hag's usually very composed. He doesn't really say much. And you can kind of see the cracks starting to form. You can see, I don't know, it feels a little bit like after that press conference that he was just lashing out at them. He was thinking, I don't care anymore. I'm not going to sit here and let my brand as a manager be just completely ripped to shreds by the media. So he called them a disgrace and he called them an embarrassment, which is not something Erik ten Hag usually does. He's very, very quiet. And I do think there's more to it than what we think. Moving on to his future. So there's a story coming out from Neil Custis, who sometimes is reliable, sometimes isn't. I would say 50-50. Half the time he puts out complete crap. The other time it can be reliable. But he is reporting this evening that Erik ten Hag will be sacked by Manchester United this summer. Even if he wins the FA Cup, he is now not going to keep his job. So Neil Custis, I think, to be honest with you, I think he's guessing. Like, how would one journalist know whether Erik ten Hag's going to keep his job or not? Like, if that was true, Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein, Laurie Whitwell, all of these reliable journalists would put out this story. I think he's just guessing. Like, I still think it's 50-50 whether Erik ten Hag will be the manager next season. Do I want him to be the manager next season? I do, but if a better option comes around and, Manchester United announce that they're going to get rid of 10 plus players, they're going to bring in a new manager, a new style of play, maybe I could be open to it. But as it stands at the moment, I just feel like Erik ten Hag leaving means that the players will be empowered, the players will stay and will be here in 2 years' time having the same conversation, which I don't want to have. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. What's your thoughts on it? Moving over to the game against Sheffield United. So more injury news. Scott McTominay's injured. Marcus Rashford is injured. Garnacho's apparently injured. And so is Bruno Fernandes. 4 more injuries. I honestly don't understand, who's going to even be able to play now. I mean, you've got Ahmad. You've got Anthony. In the midfield, I guess you've got Kobe Mainoo, Casemiro, Ericsson, who can barely run for half an hour. We're literally going to be running on scraps at this point. Our whole bench is going to be under 18 players probably for this game against Sheffield United tomorrow. Sheffield United obviously absolutely desperate to get a result, to cling on to any hope of staying up in the Premier League. They're probably already relegated realistically, but let me just double check if it's mathematically possible for them to stay up. It's still mathematically possible. If Sheffield United were to win the next 5 games, they would stay up. I mean, it's not going to happen, but it is possible still. So they haven't been mathematically relegated yet. But I think if they were to lose, if they were to lose to us tomorrow, Sheffield United, and Nottingham Forest were to win, I think they would be relegated tomorrow. So it's a massive game for Sheffield United. It's effectively their last roll of the dice to try and stay in the Premier League, and it's their opportunity to go and beat Man United and cause an upset. So who knows what will happen in that game? I imagine we'll win, but you can never be very confident as a Man United fan at the moment, can you? It could literally go either way. But you guys can let me know in the comment section, what's your score predictions for Manchester United versus Sheffield United? 8 o'clock kickoff tomorrow evening. I'm going to go with 3-0. I think we're going to go out there and put in a big performance and, we'll come away happy. But yeah, I mean, it could easily not be 3-0. But let me know what you guys think. What's your score predictions for the game tomorrow? And then the final story we've got for you this evening is that apparently Man United are in a multi-million deal negotiation with Disney over a deal to make documentaries. Okay, that sounds quite interesting, quite cool. I would love nothing more than Manchester United to do a Netflix-style documentary like the Arsenal one, like the Man City one. I would love to know what's going on in that dressing room. They'll never do it, because there's obviously so much crazy things going on in that dressing room with player power. You watch the Man City documentary and the Arsenal one, and they seem to be such a well-run football clubs at the moment, whereas Man United just simply aren't. I would love it. I would absolutely love to be a fly on the wall in Erik ten Hag's dressing room. It would be crazy, but Whether that will happen or not, obviously we'll have to wait and see whether it does. But yes, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this evening's show. If you have, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. This has been Daily Red Devil. I'll be back at 11 a.m. tomorrow, UK time. Have a great evening, everybody, and speak to you all very soon.